How's it going, everybody? K1GMM, Steve over here in Vermont. And we are going to go through Essb Voodoo setup, including components, what I run here. I had a very nice email from an operator in Canada this morning who was listening to me on 3615. And he commented that basically, as you saw in the intro there, your audio is incredible. Wow. I'm going to go through the setup, what I have running here as far as the HF rig goes and how I make this thing sound the way I want it to sound. Okay. I wouldn't classify it as Voodoo. I would definitely classify it as Essb, but it's kind of a hybrid between the two because what I really like, I like the ability of the audio to cut. And oftentimes Voodoo, you'll hear a lot of Voodoo audio, and it doesn't really have a lot in the upper mid-range. It's very, very compressed, and it's silky on the top end, which is nice, right? But it's... I don't know. It's hard to explain. I like that. Like if you were to take a piece of paper or a piece of cardboard and you were to rip it in half, I like that sound in the top end. That vocal presence, getting that vocal presence in that really big bottom. That big bottom end where you go down really low and you get all the plaster and the sheetrock and it's starting to crack and pictures are falling from the walls and lights are shattering on the ceiling. You know what I mean? Like really way down low. That's nice. You know what I mean? It's really cool. What do you need to get that? And I'm going to give you a starting point. I don't have really a whole lot going on here. And you'll kind of laugh when I tell you the microphone I'm using. I've been having a lot of problems with, I don't know if it's a combination preamp and microphone thing. I suspect it might be an issue with the microphone, but either way, it has something to do with the phantom power, and I haven't nailed it down yet. So I've been using this microphone. Now, this microphone is an Audio-Technica ATM25. This is technically a drum microphone. Okay, this is used for kick drum and floor toms and stuff like that. It is a hypercardioid dynamic. Now, it does not require phantom power, and being a hypercardioid, that designates the pattern of the microphone, how the microphone is patterned. It is very sensitive to proximity effect, as you can see if I move off the microphone a little bit. It's still there, but it's not as much as it is right here. You see what I'm saying? And I kind of like that for, shacks tend to be kind of noisy. And I have an amplifier running most of the time, a lot of the time. And, you have fans running and different things going on in the shack. And a hypercardioid mic is a nice microphone to use in a shack because it's a very tight pattern and it tends to reject noises coming in from the side of it and from behind it and stuff like that. Something to consider. So that's what I'm using currently for a microphone. I was using a CAD, Charlie Alpha Delta GXL 2200, but that's the mic that's giving me problems, and I'm not sure what's wrong with it. So we're going to move on, and I'm going to walk you through the chain of command. Audio is like a signal flow. It's like water. So signal flows from point A to point D or E, wherever the termination point is, right? So in this case, the anon would be its final destination before it's spit out on RF. So I'm using an anon 200D. It's capable of running enormous bandwidth. Audio is second to none on these radios. Pretty much what you put in is what you get out on these rigs. It's one of the very few rigs on the planet that can do pretty much anything you want it to do. this morning, usually when I'm talking on 80 meters down low, down around 3615 with the guys, I'm running 4K wide. Now, what does that mean? What does the bandwidth really mean? So I have my bandwidth actually set to transmit from, I think it's 30 hertz, I think it's 40 hertz all the way to 4 kilohertz, okay, of bandwidth. The really nice top end comes in at around 3.5, 3.6 kilohertz. You don't need to run 4 kilohertz. You don't even need to run 3.6 kilohertz. An ICOM 7300 590 SG is capable of really nice audio. However, it is limited. And you're not going to get that guttural Jeez, the wife is dropping stuff upstairs. Good heavens. Sorry about that, you guys. You're not going to get that guttural bottom end. A lot of radios roll off at 100 hertz, and you have to force them to go below that, like the 7300. You can do it. You can force a 7300 to go below 100 hertz down to about 60 hertz. But if you really want to get that Essb Voodoo stuff, you got to get into a transceiver that's capable of transmitting from, let's say, 40 hertz all the way to 4 kilohertz, 8 kilohertz, 10 kilohertz, whatever. Enter the anon. Flexes, yeah, they're nice, but I have yet to hear a flex that can rival an anon. And it's something, I don't know if it has to do with pure signal. I don't understand enough about it. So anyways, I'm not here to get into a pissing match over radios. I'm just going to give you guys a primer as to how to get started. And this can be applied to any transceiver. Okay. So the microphone, if you think about it as a series of waterfalls, the audio, it goes from point A to point B to point C to point D. Now, how do you get all this stuff connected together, and what do you use to give you that really nice bottom end? You know what I'm saying? And that really nice silky top end. And some mid-range presence in the middle. What do you use? How do you get that? Well, first thing is you need to understand how a ham radio transceiver works, which is an ongoing journey for myself. They do not, a ham radio transceiver by nature is not a high fidelity device. It was never intended to be. However, you can make them do remarkable things, but you need the right equipment to do that. So, yes, the microphone is a very important part of it. It all starts with a mic, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on a mic, believe it or not. Guys get crazy over microphones. They spend thousands of dollars on microphones. You don't have to do that. The CAD GXL 2200 is a superb microphone. It gets great reviews online. You can look it up. GXL Gulf X-Ray Lima 2200. I bought mine for $60, and they've become so popular that they're pretty much almost double the price now. I think. Don't hold me that. So starts with a mic. Get yourself a decent mic that works with your voice. See, I have a low voice to begin with. So this particular microphone works really well with my voice, and it's got a very nice top end to it. And if you want it to cut, you can make it cut. All right, so I'm going to jump over to the rack, and I'm going to show you the signal flow and how things move and what I personally have running. And I want you guys to understand that anybody who plays in this realm it has to be a tweaker. And I've said this before in the previous Essb video. If you're a tweaker, you will love this. If you're not a tweaker, stay away from it because it'll be nothing but frustration. I am not happy with my audio. People like I have Jerry, what's his called, the group on 3615. He says, man, you got that thing sounded really sweet. Me personally, I'm not happy. But that's the nature of playing this game. So be warned. It's addictive. It's exciting. And it's just fascinating to see what you can do with these transceivers. It could be any transceiver. Every transceiver can be improved upon. But remember, once you venture into the Essb realm, in the Voodoo realm, this is purely subjective this is a subjective arena. You're going to have butt-tards out there telling you, well, what do you don't need to sound like that. Well, no, I don't need to sound like that, but I want to sound like that. You know what I mean? It's a very unique style of radio, of audio. It's wonderful to listen to if you have a system that can monitor it. I use a big system here. It's not huge, but I use a set of reference monitors with a Polk Audio subwoofer. Now, on anybody who's running Essb Voodoo type audio, it is awesome. It's awesome. It's like a freaking earthquake in here, man. It's beautiful. But see, it's not all about the bass, as Megan Trainor would say. It's not about the bass. The bass is one component of it, but you need some mid-range in there, some vocal presence, and some top end. And that's where being able to run a little bit wider. And like I said before, you need to be courteous. If their station's sandwiched in on you and you're splattering into them, narrow it up. Don't run 4 kilohertz wide. Reel it into 3 kilohertz. You pick and choose your times to play, is what I'm saying. Don't be rude. Don't be an asshat. Find your spots to go. And if you want to run 4K, do it. But be respectful, is what I'm trying to say. I think you guys understand. I think most of my viewers would agree with that. And I know there's going to be some people that balk at that, and I don't really give a crap. So take it for what it's worth. I try to be polite, and I try to be a courteous operator. The ones that give Essb audio a bad name are discourteous, and they really should have their license pulled, in my opinion. Be courteous and be considerate. This is a very crowded arena sometimes, and sometimes you just can't do it. A lot of times you can if you find the right spot. Anyways, moving on to the rack. So let me get to the rack. And where are we? So I'm going to show you exactly what's going on here. Stand by. Okay, so we covered the microphone. So from the microphone, your microphone needs to go into some sort of preamp. So here I have a Behringer. This is an Ultra Gain Pro. This is a 2-channel preamp. I run a headset in this side, and I run the Essb Voodoo system, which feeds the Anon from this side. This is the preamp. This is what gets the go-go juices flowing to get going through the rack. From there, it goes into an EQ. You don't have to use this equipment. You can use anything you want. You're just going to have to be careful of RFI. Make sure your cabling is excellent. Do not skimp on the cabling. Sorry about that. And you should be good. I can run a kilowatt here with no RFI on the signal, but I'm very anal retentive when it comes to that stuff. Some guys have problems with RFI. Some guys have problems with ground loops. So from the preamp goes into the EQ. There's multitudes of different types of equalizers. You can run a graphical, which is what I have here, or you can run a parametric. Parametrics are very powerful and really good. It depends on what your budget requires. This is all, keep in mind, this is all budget equipment. This is not expensive equipment. So from the preamp goes to the EQ. All right. And then from the EQ, I hit an Aphex 204. Now, this is an oral exciter with optical big bottom. This is what makes the magic happen. This is the sound of it without the Aphex in line, which is good. For DX audio, this would be great. For Voodoo Essb audio, kick that sucker in, and you've got a whole different beast, totally different beast. Now, you guys aren't going to hear this on a cell phone. If you're listening in headphones or a big system, yes, you will hear the difference. So the Aphex 204 or a similar device, I'm a big fan of Aphex. If you're going to spend money to get this going, you got to have this, or a single channel Aphex. But the Aphex, sorry about that, oral exciter with optical big bottom rules. It is amazing what it does to your audio. From there, It goes to a compressor limiter expander gate, and I'm running a gate on it. Also has a de-esser and a peak limiter. This is the de-esser right here, and this is the peak limiter. It's an okay unit. I'm not overly thrilled with it, but it does work. I run very little compression. What have I got? I've got about 3-to-1 compression running right now. So not much. I try to stay away from too much compression and go with more limiting. If you look at the meter right here, I've got a lot of limiting. See these red bars that come up? And when I talk, this is the actual output of the device. Okay. So I've got more limiting than what I've got going out. That helps keep the audio under control, because transceivers were never intended to take this kind of an audio waveform and signal. They were never designed to do that. Can they do it? Sure. You can force feed the thing, man. Crank its mouth open and ram a whole mess of crap in there, and it'll go through. But you got to be able to tame the wild beast. So some kind of limiter, compressor limiter is very, very valuable. Beware of an expander. I need to say this. If you run amplifiers and you have a very hot microphone, an expander will be your worst enemy, because it will expand the noise. When you stop talking, all of a sudden the noise will just come surging in. You'll hear this roar. Now the Anon 200D has what's called a downward expander on it, and that is wicked cool, very effective. It virtually, when you stop talking or when you're talking, I don't know how it works, but it eliminates all the ambient room noise. And speaking of ambient room noise, here's something that you may want to consider. All right, at the bottom of the chain, so it hits the compressor limiter. In the very last stage of the chain, I use a virtualizer, a 3D virtualizer. This is a Behringer device, and I run a reverb, just a slight reverb, just to give my voice a little, just a hint of room ambience. Because if you don't, it sounds like everybody else. It sounds like you're talking in a padded room, a padded cell. And the only way to replicate that would be to run a hot microphone in a very live room, which you can do, but you don't have control over that. That's the problem. So what I do is I bring, and you don't want the virtualizer, you don't want any reverb in the chain prior to the compressor limiter, because what will happen is the gate will kill the reverb. So you want the reverb to be last in the chain, so you have the room ambience you're creating, just a hint. You don't want to make it sound like, CB with a friggin' massive delay box going or some crazy crap like that. Just a hint where you have to actually concentrate to hear it. But if I shut it off, you'd be like, oh, wow, yeah, that's like talking into a pillow. You know what I'm saying? So from there, it goes into the virtualizer. And then from the virtualizer in the Anon, from the Anon perspective, it actually hits this device right here, which is the M Audio sound card. And that pipes the audio through the computer, through the LAN connection into the Anon. In a conventional transceiver, you wouldn't be doing that. You'd take the audio straight out of the virtualizer through, like I have a 7300 here, into a Heil cable, plug that into the back of the virtualizer and feed it directly into the radio. There are instances where you will need to put a pad in line. Like I have a 20, 30, 40 dB pad switchable that I use on the 7300 because the audio is just so hot and the impedance mismatch is pretty brutal. So that may be an option as well on a conventional superhet or even a 7300, which I consider a superhet. It's not, but yeah, it's not a true SDR like Flexonon, Expert, anything like that. So that's pretty much it as far as the actual chain goes. And I really can't think of anything else. And that's it. So I don't think I've ever really explained all that before and how that all works. So to summarize, you want a decent microphone that works well with your voice. You want a preamp to drive it. You want an equalizer. The Aphex 204 is second to none. It is a device I will never live without as far as playing in this arena with this kind of audio. The 204, I've used it in the studio. I've used it in live performances when I used to run sound for people. It is a phenomenal device. It's not particularly cheap. I bought that for $100 used. You can find them used around. Keep your eye out. Worth every penny. Best $100 you'll ever spend as far as getting cracking audio, cranking out of pretty much any HF transceiver. That's what makes the magic happen. So the Aphex compressor limiter is not really. I keep hitting the microphone. I'm sorry. It's not really necessary. But I will warn you, most compression, if you try to use the compressor in your HF rig and you're trying to go down this road of Essb, you're going to be grossly disappointed. The compressors that are built into these radios, aside from the Anon is the best I've ever seen. And I'm not touting Anon. I'm just telling you what I found, out after having one. I would stay away from the compression in the rigs. Try to do that externally. Probably if you wanted to go absolutely start with a bare bones minimum, this is what I do, bare bones minimum. Decent mic. You can go with an ART MP Studio preamp, which is approximately $40, and an Aphex 204, and feed your rig with that. The advantage to the Ultra Gain preamp, the Behringer, is that it has parametric EQ and high and low pass filtering built into it. That is cool because you can pre-tailor the audio. You could theoretically use a really good microphone and take the equalizer completely out of the chain. You don't even need one. Just run the preamp with the Aphex 204 with a decent mic and you're off and running, man. You'll have some killer audio. Killer. So that's it, man. I hope you guys found this useful. I had a direct request from, I don't know his name. I have to look again. And my apologies. Let's see if I can find it here. I don't think I will. Yeah, I won't find it. I don't know where I put it. So it's actually in my email. I could open it up and look at it. But special thanks to him, and I hope this answered his questions. And any questions you may have, go ahead and hit me. Post your questions in the comments section, and I'll see if I can answer them. There are ways to do this on a budget and produce really, really amazing audio. So anyway, 7-3 guys, we'll catch you later. And I'm not sure when I'll be live streaming, but if you want to be notified of an up and coming stream or when a video is posted, go ahead and subscribe. I say this all the time. I'm not doing it for subscribers. I don't care. But if you want to be notified, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell icon. I think the bell icon is still there. And make sure notifications are on, and you should be notified when stuff happens. Anyway, 7-3. We'll catch you all later. This is K1GMM Steve, Vermont, in the Voodoo capital of Hurricane Hollow. We'll see you all later. Just having some fun.